Good day, my friend. This is Martin Comtois, MC Starman, joining you from beautiful Duncan on Vancouver Island. This is my second post where I'm focusing more on perspective and depth, doing more in-depth studies of the material. Today, we're going to be discussing the Saturn Jupiter conjunction and the solstice. If you like the content of my website, please do subscribe. We're up to 192 um, subscriber, and also this last video that we did that was much more detailed and again focusing on depth and perspective was really well received. We're nearly at 400 views, which is almost double the previous one, so I'm really appreciative for everybody showing up and supporting our work together. So this is the Healer and the Dreamer Astrology, presenting the astrological anatomy of a crisis, roaring into the 20s. So this video is the first installment in a three-part series. It's a Winter Solstice 2020 year-end astrological report and forecast. The first one that we will be dealing with is the Jupiter Saturn conjunction, and what I call the a renewal of hope and destiny. Um, so much is at stake with these times, and so we're being asked to renew a sense of direction and hope. So the Jupiter Saturn conjunction, the winter solstice, I like the numerology of it. We have a renewal of hope and destiny, but the 12, 21, 2020, it totals 10, 10 being the Decarius, the number of a new beginning. And so this is a quote from Liz Green's book that I'll introduce next. If a Jupiter and Saturn meet, oh, what a crop of mummy wheat. That's from William Butler Yeats. And so what is mummy wheat? Mummy wheat is associated with the Egyptian myths, and mummy wheat was offered in rituals to the dead. And so Jupiter and Saturn, the conjunction, as we will see, has been associated with the dying of the old king and the renewal of the new king. And so this is what we're going to be looking at in this video. And so my third slide here. Um, the transformative powers of the conjunction. So we're talking about conjunctions and what do they mean? What is a conjunction and how does that in any different than any other alignments? What's really important to understand about conjunctions is that they form a mm, a new beginning. So in a conjunction, the planet comes, like right now we have a Sun Mercury conjunction, and then we have the Jupiter Saturn conjunction. So the time where Jupiter is getting closer and closer to Pluto to Saturn, that's the death. And then when the conjunction happens, then there's the rebirth afterwards. So conjunctions have a component of death and then rebirth. And so in that sense, they're very, very powerful alignments. So we're going to look at the meaning of the conjunction. Mm, um, what else are we going to look at here? We're going to look at the 2021 and 2020 and 2021 Pluto conjunctions, and I have a graph for you for that. And the meaning of Pluto in 2020, and then the shift of energy that we'll see in 2021 that will be quite different. The winter solstice, the darkest night, the renewal of intention. We'll look at the winter solstice chart, the alchemy and the maxima conjunctio, the great conjunction. We'll also look at the great mutation involved in the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction. Jupiter, the giver of hope, and Saturn, the master of destiny. And the title of this video is The Renewal of Hope and Destiny. This video, all the quotes that you'll see posted, I have a lot of material for you in this video, are from my study of the book by Liz Green and Stephen Arroyo called the Jupiter-Saturn Conference Lectures, which was published in 1984. And which took place during the 1981 conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn. So I used two of the lectures in that book. It's a very beautiful book and quite relevant, and anybody interested in that work, I believe it's still available. But all of the quotes, all the written format here is from that book, and I have the two initials, LG, Liz Green, and Stephen Arroyo. That you'll find interesting. So here we go. So the conjunction. So how is a conjunction work? And I'm still getting used to this technology of shifting back and forth, but how does a conjunction work? And what's really interesting about 2020, excuse me, is that in 2020 and at the beginning of 2021, every single planet except for Uranus and Neptune have come to a conjunction with Pluto. So that's very significant because Pluto is associated with death and rebirth, or what is dying within me to be reborn to a higher octave of expression. And it also has to do with our ancestral connection and our connection with the dark, with hell, with the ancestors. And so then a very, very powerful conjunction taking place. And so here, let's look at that in a little more detail here. Technology takes its time. So if we look at the first conjunction of 2020 of Saturn conjoins Pluto in Capricorn, January 13th of 2020. As astrologer, we've been looking at that conjunction as really the beginning of a major collective crisis. Saturn, Pluto conjunctions happen every 30 some years, a little more than that sometimes, and they're always associated uh, with the Saturnian. So that's the Grim Reaper, Saturn, and Pluto, the Lord of Hell, coming together. So it's always very difficult, and we've looked at it in previous videos. Then in March, we had the conjunction of Mars and Pluto. Then we had a series of 3 conjunction with Jupiter and Pluto in April, in June, and in November. Then on December 21st, Jupiter conjoined Saturn. In January 5th, Mercury will conjoin Pluto, that is 2021. And then January 14th, the Sun conjoins Pluto. January 21st, Mars conjoins Uranus, which is really going to be very dramatic. The change of energy and then we'll look at those charts in my next post. And then on the 29th, Venus conjoins Pluto. And the picture I have here is of Hades abducting Persephone um, while Cupid looks on. And this myth of the kidnapping of Persephone has been associated for many, many years to for ever since antiquity um, with the seasons, with the solstices and the equinox and these celebrations that took place at these key moments. We call them the cardinal points. They were associated with the descent into the dark and the renewal of the goddess and the reappearing or bringing her back into the world. And so a lot of that is going on in terms of this rebirth process of the goddess. And so the myth of Persephone is always really important. Then I have a little quote here by Liz Green. Today, the slights, insults, and buried angers of centuries are pouring from the collective level into personal relationships. What we're having is this is from Liz Green's Relating, and really she addresses something that Jung also addressed, is this renewal that's taking place, and how the field of of um, of dealing with ancestral rage and ancestral patterns, ancestral shadows, is to be found in personal relationships. And so it's very easy to project or to live the crisis in our relationship without really understanding that this is a personal process. This is a process of rebirth that's taking place for us and for the collective, and we have to be responsible to own to our stuff. So that's been an issue that we've all been having to deal with. Um, so let's go back to the slides. Um, so so here we are coming to the winter solstice, 12/21/2020 at 2 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, Jupiter Saturn conjunction. So we have here Jupiter and Saturn. What's really far out about this Jupiter Saturn conjunction is, one, it happens directly at the solstice, a few hours after the solstice, 10:20 a.m. on the West Coast. And as it conjoins, it also moves into Aquarius. Now, both Capricorn and Aquarius are ruled by Saturn, but the Saturnian expression in air in Aquarius is much different than Capricorn expression of um, Saturn. Saturn in Capricorn is all about discipline. It's earth, it's giving form to things. Now in a conjunction with Pluto and Jupiter, we have this process going on. And so this has been, 2020 in a nutshell. Now as Jupiter and Saturn move into Aquarius, then we have the Aquarian perspective. And these 3 workshops that I'm planning on, this one and the next 2 will be dealing with this in more detail. Then we have this is the chart of the solstice, and then we have Mercury Sun conjunction as the sun enters into Capricorn and winter begins. Then we also have a moon Neptune in Pisces conjunction. And so these three conjunctions play, really set the tone for the next 6 months. Moon, Neptune, seeking a safe container. Jupiter, Saturn, a renewal of hope and destiny coming into Aquarius, and then the Mercury Sun conjunction and the guide of souls. And then we'll talk a lot more about this in coming months, and that is the Mars Uranus conjunction that happens again as we looked at. So this is quite an important alignment, and we are being asked to really redefine ourselves. Now I have a series of quotes for you that come from that book that I quoted. I'm going to pause this for a second. And so this is the first time in my post that I introduce so much text. And what's really nice about this is it helps us to look at this cycle of the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction from the eyes of this book that was written right at the time of the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction in 1981. And so this conjunction itself occurs, and if you want, you can pause that and read it. I'm just going to give you the highlights of it. But the conjunction itself occurs every 20 years, as you know, marking special social and mass psychological rhythms. A broader cycle is the repetition of the conjunction in the same element for approximately 200 years. The last great mutation started in the Earth sign Capricorn in 1840. The current conjunction in an air sign represents a new trend. It is the first Jupiter-Saturn conjunction since 1842 that is not in an Earth sign. So the 1981 conjunction was also in an air sign. And then the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction 20 years from now, which is written in 1980, speaking of the 2000, will again take place in an Earth sign of Taurus. It is only after that that the great mutation will begin completely in an air element, when the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction of 2020 takes place at 0 degrees 31 minutes of Aquarius. We simply have to expect significant and long-lasting social changes. Within the 20-year cycle defined by the conjunctions of Jupiter and Saturn, one can recognize two semi-cycles. The first 10 years of the cycle are more intense, and there is a sort of winding up leading to the peak of the Jupiter-Saturn opposition. The last 10 years of the cycle often seem to be winding down of the intensity, pace, and overall direction that was present in the earlier stage of the cycle. During the first 10 years, people tend more to initiate, project, experiment, and many rapid changes happen, as well as most of the biggest crises. Then, during the second 10 years, people often seem to be exhausted, needing a period of reflection and assimilation since the pace of change has been too rapid to sustain. In my next slide, we'll look at it in history and gain some conclusions from that. The first 10 years mark a decided extroversion, optimism in many cases, or at least striving for an ideal or fighting for a cause. As the opposition approaches, the intensity of extroversion and the level of outward directed confidence begins to wane, both nationally, socially, and in many cases individually. That was from Stephen Arroyo. And then we have a quote from Liz Green here. We must look at what the element of air might mean in collective terms. So this switching of the conjunction for the next couple hundred years, of the conjunction shifting into air sign. I think air is connected with our ethical codes, or morals or ideals, what you might call the civilizing instinct. Air is the only truly human element. It is the only element which possesses no animal figures among symbols. So we have air sign, we have Gemini, which is the twins. Then we have Libra, the bearer of the scale, the goddess of justice, the second air sign. And the third air sign is Aquarius, the water bearer. And so these are all human figures, and it's the only human figures in the zodiac. Air allows us to step back and detach and think of someone else's point of view. This detachment allows us to consider society as an organism and to plan because I think air also deals with mapping and planning and the quality of foresight. So if the old king is going to die and the new king emerge, the mythic scenario will enact itself in the sphere of our collective ethics, moral codes, beliefs, and opinions about the nature of society. And so we've been seeing that a lot. And each time we have a major shift in in these conjunctions, we get to see that again. And so here we are now looking at the Maxima Conjunctio, the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction in the last 100 years. So November 1901, September 1921, and the 20s, 1941, World War II, 1961, the beginning of the 60s. Each 20 years mark a real progression of our social engagement, social awareness. Then 1981, and then May 2000, which was also a really important time of change. We had, the Y2K and the fear involved with that. And then we had the 9/11 coming just a short few months after the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction. And then now we have December 2020, which we're living. Now, what Stephen Arroyo was saying is that there's a progression between the beginning of the conjunction and then the opposition 10 years later, and that the first part of the cycle is a real extroverted period where we really engage with what we've learned from the conjunction. And then, in the 2030 opposition, then we'll all feel exhausted. It's kind of what happened in 2000 and then 2010 and then now 2020. These cycles repeat itself. And so here we are at this juncture in time. Mm, so let's go to our, so that's a lot of information there. And so, it gives us an idea of what is going on in our collective. I got a few more pages of quotes for you to consider. And then we'll conclude this. I'm still really new at this, and so I'm learning the technology and learning to get the flow and giving you more information and more depth and perspective. So please be patient with me as I get better at this. And if you have any comments and if you like what I'm doing, please encourage me and share through becoming a subscriber and through passing this on to others. We're all getting accustomed to these new times with this Jupiter-Saturn conjunction. And so I'm a real human as well. And so your support's really important to me. And so here we go and we continue. Where were we? So we looked at the times in history where the conjunction was apparent. And now we're going to look at some more quotes from Liz Green and Stephen Arroyo. So I'm going to paraphrase this one. So in medieval and Renaissance astrology, the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction is always considered to herald a change in rulership. Whoops. A change in rulership, the death of a king, and an interregnum of chaos and the emergence of a new king. Great difficulties in the environment were always predicted, but the main theme is the image of the old king dying and a new king being reborn. You can go all the way back to the Greek myth to find the same theme. For the Greeks, these two gods are called Kronos and Zeus. You've been seeing the pictures that I've been showing, all alchemical woodcuts of Saturn. Saturn had a reputation for eating his own children because he didn't want any competition. And Zeus, Jupiter, was able to avoid this. And then finally overthrew his father, just like his father had overthrown his father. And so this is a cycle of the son overthrowing the father, which is represented, of course. Jupiter rules Sagittarius and Pisces, and then Saturn rules Capricorn and Aquarius. So once again, the image of the same thing, the image of something old dying, an interim period of chaos and confusion, and the apparent supremacy of the old principle, which seems to have succeeded in repressing any new life that might attempt to emerge. Really feels familiar. And here we are. This is written in 1980 during one Saturn-Jupiter conjunction, and here we are living very similar experiences. One of the many ways that you can look at them is to see Jupiter as the carrot that dangles in front of the donkey and Saturn as the stick which beats him from behind. Both planets are concerned with growth and movement and meaning. They are neither wholly personal nor wholly transpersonal. They are the boundary lines between the inner planets, which we associate with our individual needs, and the outer planets, which are concerned with deep movements in the collective. Jupiter and Saturn underpin one's personal philosophy about life, one's worldview. The realm of philosophy is the borderline between personal and transpersonal. Jupiter and Saturn describe our vision of life and the kinds of ethical structure we use as the basis for making decisions. And so now we can really see this in our collective right now. And also because the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction is moving into Aquarius, but just got through a conjunction with Pluto, the dramatic effect of this conjunction is magnified. For Saturn, meaning can only be found through work, through suffering, through hard labor, through discipline, through asceticism. Saturn's way is the dark, introspective, bitter road through experience, and realization only comes in old age when there's enough experience behind you for you to be able to say, I know this to be true because I've been there. Jupiter has a very different voice. He says, I know this to be true because I just know it. Jupiter glimpses a vision of the truth. He doesn't have to wring it out of his own blood. In fact, he prefers to avoid hard experiences. He finds his meaning through his intuition, through meditation and looking at horoscopes and reading inspiring literature. He is attracted to religious and philosophical systems that ring true for him. Jupiter doesn't like to continue to confuse his truths with facts. unlike Saturn, who doesn't like to confuse his facts with the truth. And that's really quite a statement. Jupiter is concerned with what he believes to be true. And it is not really based on experience. It's based on intuition and fiery conceptions, and oftentimes it is not based on experience. Saturn, on the other hand, demands mastery, and so uh, for Saturn, facts are true, and mm, for Jupiter, truth doesn't really need facts. And again, we see that a lot and constellated in our collective right now. Interesting how these things are cycles and continue to repeat themselves. So I have a lot of information for you in this post, and I'm curious about how you feel about that. But in order to stay objective, having to be able to look in the past is a very Saturnian way, where the Jupiter enthusiasm. Sometimes we don't think things through, and we're not as objective as we should be. This is the last page of quote, and if you want, I can very easily send you this file these files that I have for your own study, um, and so drop me a message if you like, and join my mailing list and join my YouTube channel, and you'll get more of these detailed exploration of the astrology of our times. This is Jupiter and Saturn conjunction on the personal level, again by Stephen Arroyo. Stephen Arroyo was a partner of Liz Green during the 70s. Before Liz Green teamed up with Howard Sasportas, Stephen Arroyo died fairly young, as well as Howard Sasportas, but they were really great partners for Liz Green to work with. And of course, Liz Green is still doing some very, very valuable work, and or collections of books, and the contribution that she's made to modern astrology from a Jungian perspective is quite large. So here she is saying Jupiter, no, this is Stephen Arroyo. Jupiter, as it transits, you have the opportunity and the urge to expand your understanding beyond current boundaries, to improve your situation through understanding and then through positive action. It may seem that Saturn and Jupiter together are saying to you something like this: you got to learn this. But at the same time, as the heaviness of Saturn is being felt, telling you that you have no choice, Jupiter is also telling you, isn't this great? It's kind of what's going on in our times now. We're really depressed, and yet we feel quite that there are some real positive things that are emerging from our times. And so Saturn brings certain dimensions of your life into focus and often reveals the results of previous activities and attitudes, while heightening objectivity and giving you the determination and commitment to make things happen and the discipline to do them right. Jupiter simultaneously expands your understanding and gives you the faith and strength to act on the new understanding based on the new vision of the future. Your vision of the future, one would hope, will be a more realistic one, thanks to the Saturnian assimilation of past experience in that area of life. So then on the personal note, the Saturn Jupiter conjunction is a renewal of intention. It is a looking at optimism towards the future while having learned from one's lessons. Like Liz Green said, it's Jupiter is the carrot, in front of the donkey, and Saturn is the stick that beats the donkey to move forward. And so they are governed, they're neither fully personal, nor are they fully transpersonal. Their really rule are social interactions and our commitment to doing what we need to do in the world. So it can show you people's motives for being in any kind of relationship with you, and that's really important. Jupiter, Saturn helps you understand motives, not only your, people around you, but also your own motives. And so motives are being questioned at this time. What you doing, what you're doing things for. And so, so whatever is going on, one of the challenges of Jupiter and Saturn being experienced together is to optimistically plan and work towards the future, Jupiter, while assimilating the lessons of the past, Saturn, even if you thereby have to deal with fear, resentment, hurt, disillusionment, and pain. This conjunction represents a curious mixture of positive and negative, optimism and pessimism, faith in the future, and yet a realistic acknowledgement of the limitations of life that you have learned from the past. We may have to decide to what extent our individual lives have to be related to and integrated with a larger purpose. And this really brings us to the next two installments of this series of three, where we'll look at at the, um, the 20 the crisis in retrospect, where we'll look trying to get the objectivity and perspective, looking at all of the major alignments that have occurred recently and what the overall message is going through and what to expect from 2021. So those are the next two assignments that I have preparing. I'm spending a lot more time in doing studies and in preparing these posts. So one may say that I'm trying to become more Saturnian and less Jupiterian, and I think that has always been my nature. I've always been very dedicated to my studies, and so now I'm taking it to this next level, getting used to this new media. Many of you know me. I really love doing live work, doing work in front of people. And so now I'm having to do it in front of the camera and learning how to do that and to present a good product for you. So I hope you enjoy this. And again, please do subscribe. YouTube is set up in such a way that once you get 1,000 subscribers, you get to have a way of making a living through your channel. And so hopefully we'll hit 200 here really soon, and then we'll continue to grow, and you'll pass this on to others, and then my work will get better, and we can get there. That is a Jupiterian vision combined with the Saturnian discipline. I hope this has been interesting for you. I have my last slide that I will share with you. And that is right here. So I'm Martin Comtois. I like to be, to refer to as MC Starman. I deal with astrology, dream work, Jung. I do readings, workshops, and mentoring. The Healer and the Dreamer. Astrology is my brand. YouTube, Facebook, Healer and the Dreamer, astrology.ca. And then you can email me here at Healer and Dreamer at Gmail. So this has been really fun, and I hope that it worked out for you. Looking forward to the next, which will come really soon. Again, drop me a line, press the subscribe button, and happy integration of this information. And during this solstice season and the Jupiter Saturn conjunction, put some intention into what it is that you want from this year ahead, and how you're prepared to put the work into this vision of your life. Looking forward to hearing from you. I'm out of here.